there are some mysteries that are easy to solve. For example, what's 2 plus 2? Easy, it's math. But there are some mysteries that would stump even Sherlock Holmes, Nancy Drew, and Batman. Put your deer stalkers on and get thinking. These are unsolved mysteries that cannot be explained. Number 15. Easter Island. Surprisingly, the mystery of Easter Island has absolutely nothing to do with bunnies, eggs, or anything else related to Easter. But while this Chilean volcanic island may not have anything remotely related to the holiday, it has something far more unique. Those iconic stone statues known as moai, designed with a disproportionately large head and a tiny body. Nobody actually knows who put them there, why, or even how they got there. It's an Easter miracle. The island features over 300 megalithic statues, each of which was constructed by a different community, dating all the way back to the 13th century. While scientists have concluded that almost all of the statues are made of volcanic rock, they've been unable to conclude anything more due to a lack of evidence. So to sum up, nobody has any idea how or why, or well, that's about it. In fact, all we know is they look pretty cool. Now it's time for the odd topic. Did an angel erupt out of the road and burst up into the skies over America, looming over the drivers? This photographic evidence certainly seems to suggest so, and literally hundreds of eyewitnesses claim to have seen it. One, a woman called Miss Theakston, says her whole family were in the car and saw the thing. Another, a man called Mr. Altano, says that he felt a warm light descend from the sky and then, upon looking up, saw the smiling visage of the angel. Seconds later, it faded away and nobody knew what happened. What do you think? A real angel, or is there a logical explanation? Remember to comment down below with the hashtag #oddtopic and let us know your opinion in relation to what we just showed on screen. And now to the next topic. Number 14. Roanoke Island. It's a feat that would make even the most talented magicians envious, making over 100 people disappear into thin air. Of course, this isn't an illusion, but one of the most unusual and unexplained mysteries in history. In 1587, a group of English settlers arrived on Roanoke Island, intending to establish the first English settlement in America. But just 3 years later, the entire group had disappeared without a trace. Well, almost. Someone in the group decided to make some carvings in a gatepost and a tree. The words Croatoan and Crow, believed to refer to the then Croatoan Island. If you figured that out just from the word Croatoan, you might want to try cryptic crosswords. It's full of that stuff. The mass disappearance has been a source of much speculation ever since, with multiple investigations offering conflicting results. Fellow colonists concluded that the settlers were massacred, while other studies believed that the settlers simply integrated into other communities. But in 1937, a California man discovered a strange 21-pound stone engraved with odd markings, later interpreted as a message from one of the colonists to her father. The message suggested that most of the colonists were killed by savages, a conclusion that corresponded with early investigations. Still, historians continue to dispute seemingly every theory, and without evidence to prove it, the mystery continues to baffle all who come to hear of it, and that includes the magicians. Number 13. The AWOL soldier. Life in the military demands a certain level of secrecy, but here's one soldier who took it to a whole other level. Private Justin Bergwinkle was regarded as a committed and highly intelligent member of the United States military until he disappeared without a trace in 1993, just 3 years after enlisting. Bergwinkle's girlfriend, Iolanda, suspected something was off in the weeks leading up to his disappearance. He began abruptly leaving her house, claiming he had to visit some people. While he was out, Iolanda discovered that his briefcase was filled with shredded pieces of paper. These strange occurrences continued until she answered the phone one night and was instructed to give Bergwinkle a message. The mission's off. While Iolanda demanded answers from her boyfriend, all he offered was a cryptic reference to the movie White Sands, a thriller about international arms smuggling. Soon after that confrontation, Bergwinkle left and never returned. 3 months later, his car was discovered in the parking lot of a motel. In the trunk, the briefcase that once contained shredded paper now contained his wallet, keys, ID, and military-issued dog tags, often left behind to identify fallen soldiers. But while some, including Iolanda, believe he's dead, others think that Private Bergwinkle left these items behind to escape for reasons varying from illegal or dangerous activities to mental illness. Whatever the reason, nobody has seen or heard from Private Justin Bergwinkle since June the 12th, 1993. Number 12. The missing secretary. Some believe that dreams have a way of foretelling the future before it even happens. Others believe they're just visualizations of our subconscious, our desires and fears. The story of Cynthia Anderson could be argued as either, but is definitely an intriguing mystery. In 1980, 20-year-old Cynthia was working as a legal secretary in Ohio, often reading suspense novels to pass the time between the aggressive and often frightening phone calls that came through to the office. The calls had grown to be so concerning that her bosses built an emergency buzzer into her desk for her own safety. At home, Cynthia confided in her mother that she was suffering intense and recurring nightmares in which she allowed someone into her house, only to discover he intended great harm to her. On the morning of August the 4th, 1981, Cynthia's boss, Jim Rabbit, turned up for work expecting to see Cynthia at her desk. But while her car was sitting in the parking lot, Cynthia was nowhere to be seen. On her desk sat the novel she had been reading, turned to a page containing a passage that described a woman being violently kidnapped. The police investigation led nowhere until Ohio police got a call from a nervous-sounding woman. 1 month later, the woman claimed that Cynthia was being held in the basement of an unspecified white house. Despite police urging her to clarify, the caller's inability to speak meant that neither the house nor Cynthia was ever found, and the case remains unsolved. Theories about the disappearance range from the actions of a stalker to the idea that Cynthia simply ran away. The only thing that's certain is that Cynthia's worst nightmare became a tragic reality. Number 11. D.B. Cooper. Those of you who love true crime stories have undoubtedly heard the mysterious case of D.B. Cooper. On November the 24th, 1971, a middle-aged man purchased a ticket for a 30-minute flight from Portland to Seattle under the alias Dan Cooper. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper quietly informed the flight attendant that he had a bomb in his bag and made arrangements for $200,000 and 4 parachutes upon the plane's arrival. After touching down in Seattle, Cooper secured his ransom in exchange for the passenger's safety, but then forced the flight crew to fly in the direction of Mexico City. While in the air, Cooper opened the aft door and plunged into darkness, never to be seen again. Talk about a dramatic exit. The incident garnered such a wave of media attention that the FAA implemented new rules requiring all aircraft passengers and their carry-on baggage to be screened. The FBI began an investigation into the incident, beginning with over 800 suspects that soon narrowed to 24. However, a lack of evidence left the case cold, and efforts to trace the ransom money led nowhere. Only 2 authentic pieces of evidence have turned up since 1971, making any investigation almost impossible. With many theories but no conclusive proof, the FBI officially suspended its investigation in 2016 after 45 years. To this day, Cooper has never been found or identified, with many suspecting that he either pulled off his plan flawlessly or died on impact. We'll never know. Number 10. The $1 Million Heist. From Rubik's Cubes to eating an insane amount of hot dogs, people can do a lot of incredible things in the space of a minute. But in 1989, 3 men really upped the ante, pulling off a heist that scored them $1 million in under a minute. On April 19, 1989, guards for a Minnesota armored car company were going about their business when a group of armed robbers boxed their vehicle in and planted a fake bomb on the hood. Forcing the guards to cooperate, the thieves stole $1 million from the armored car and disappeared, all in the space of a single minute. Crime may not pay, but speed apparently does. An FBI investigation into the heist soon discovered that the bomb was a fake. The same device used by the same thieves in a robbery 3 years earlier. That theft landed them $600,000. And because it worked twice, why not? They struck a third time, 1 year later. In all 3 instances, the robbers managed to make a clean getaway and have never been identified or traced. During their investigation, the FBI came to believe that the robbers were not simple criminals after all, but likely ex-military men, well versed in ambush or attack scenarios. Number 9. Lovelock Cave Giants. It's one of the most significant questions of our world. Do giants exist? Having seen a lot of basketball players in my time, I say the answer is a resounding yes. But a Native American tribe known as the Paiute have their own answer. The Paiute believe that their ancestors were at war with an extinct race of vicious barbarian giants known as the Sitka, known to be cannibalistic and violent. After years of war, all of the region's tribes gathered to take down the Sitka together, culminating in a great battle that sent the giants hiding in a cave. The tribes shot arrows at the cowering giants before setting a massive fire at the cave's entrance, killing the fleeing giants and collapsing the cave. As the story got around, archaeologists tried to begin digs for the area, but were beaten to it by profit-seeking miners. In 1924, a man named L.L. Loud pursued his own excavation of the area and discovered something incredible. Over 10,000 artifacts were recovered from the cave, including weapons, tools, and multiple mummies and skeletons that have been debated to be anywhere between 6 and 8 feet tall. Since Loud's discovery, other artifacts have been discovered that complicate the whole mystery, including a boulder featuring a handprint much larger than the average man's. That's what they all say. Number 8. The Book of Enoch. While every family has its more eccentric members, it's fair to say that Noah's great-grandfather Enoch was a little more than a handful. The Book of Enoch is an ancient piece of Jewish scripture, all but dismissed as part of the canon of scripture, sounding off on everything from demons and giants through to reasons why the Great Flood was a morally just thing to happen. The Book of Enoch is not unlike a biblical version of a conspiracy theory YouTube channel. The most mysterious aspect of this text comes in the form of his experiences with time travel. Enoch spends a portion of the book discussing his experience with Archangel Haniel, who came to take him on a wild trip from Earth to heaven. The real mystery is why it's not called Haniel and Enoch's Excellent Adventure, but that's a mystery for another time. Enoch's writings are not considered to be part of the canon of scripture and is highly disputed due to its depiction of fallen angels who teach forbidden knowledge and encourage sinful behavior amongst humans. In fact, the Book of Enoch has been actively repressed by the church for centuries, presumably for the reasons given. But when the book contains claims of time travel and large flying vehicles, can we really trust that it's because of sin, or is there something the church is afraid of? Number 7. The Bridgewater Triangle. If there is one area of the world almost guaranteed to experience paranormal phenomena, the Bridgewater Triangle would be a worthy candidate for the title. Made up of 200 square miles and 17 towns within southeastern Massachusetts, there have been more claims of paranormal activity in this part of the country than any other. From poltergeists to balls of fire and UFOs, the Bridgewater Triangle is a hotspot for weird stuff. And at the heart of the triangle lies Hockomock Swamp, a name that quite literally translates to place where spirits dwell. This location alone has seen everything from mysterious winged creatures to sightings of Bigfoot himself. Of course, when police investigated claims of Bigfoot, they came up empty. Bigfoot gets around, but he sure knows when to lay low from the police. But even more noteworthy is the mythical Thunderbird, a 6-foot-tall winged creature famous in Native American mythology. In 1980, Police Sergeant Thomas Downey reported seeing the pterodactyl-like beast while driving on a country road after dark. Since that night, the Thunderbird is one of the most frequent sightings within the triangle. However, these incidents are generally believed to be urban legends, as no conclusive proof or evidence has ever been provided. Number 6. The Great Sphinx. Egypt has always been home to a great number of unsolvable mysteries, but the Great Sphinx is a mystery all of its own. Located on the Giza Plateau, the Great Sphinx lies not too far from the equally mysterious Pyramids of Giza, in a part of the necropolis once known as Ancient Memphis. Not that one. Memphis was a land of pharaohs, and many Egyptologists believe that the face of the Sphinx was requested to be modeled after the face of Chephren, a 4th dynasty pharaoh, with some narcissistic tendencies. However, this theory is entirely hypothetical and was disproven in 1996 by a New York detective who found that the Sphinx looked more like Chepren's brother, Jedefre. Okay, so maybe the narcissism was a family thing. It's known that later Egyptian rulers worshipped the Sphinx as Horem-Akhet, or Horus of the horizon, believing it to be some part of the great sun god. This naturally has led to more outlandish theories about the creation of the Sphinx, including the Sphinx water erosion hypothesis, which claims that water erosion suggests that the monument was built long before Chepren's time, dating all the way back to the 6th or 5th millennium BC. But of course, archaeologists have dismissed this theory as unlikely, mainly due to a lack of evidence. That old excuse again. While the paint on the monument has washed off and while water damage is evident, nobody can agree on when the Sphinx was created, why, and for whom it was created. I'm sure if he were alive, Enoch would explain everything. Number 5. Ancient Aztec Pyramids. Egypt isn't the only place you can see magnificent, mysterious pyramids. All across the Americas, ancient civilizations such as the Aztec, Inca, and Maya built hundreds of pyramids between the 12th and 16th centuries, designed to protect their deities and provide burial space for their kings. Many of these pyramids are still standing, though quite a few have sadly been lost due to vandalism or the simple passing of time. But there is one pyramid more famous than any other, the Pyramid of the Sun. Located in Teotihuacan, Mexico, the Teotihuacan civilization was one of the most dominant in early Mesoamerican culture. The Aztecs believed that the sun, the moon, and the rest of the universe trace their origins back to Teotihuacan, now known as Mexico City. There have been more pyramids and temples discovered there than any other Mesoamerican location. But as with any and all ancient monuments, nobody has any idea how the Aztecs or any other civilization could possibly have constructed so many. And while archaeological digs and investigations have confirmed that the builders of these pyramids used them to protect and bury their precious items, there's still no explanation as to why. This lack of a credible theory has led to some suggesting that the pyramids were simply leftovers from an even more ancient civilization, the Olmecs. Whatever the reason may be, these mysterious ancient pyramids have given scientists and archaeologists much to discuss for the past few centuries. Number 4. The drunk time traveler. Stop me if you've heard this one. Police in Wyoming found a time traveler wandering the streets who desperately needed to warn everyone about an impending alien invasion. Haven't you heard it? Probably because it's not a joke. That actually happened. In 2017, police found Bryant Johnson, that's not his real name by the way, but the name he goes by in our dimension, who insisted that he had time traveled from the year 2048 on an urgent mission. Bryant was here to warn the people of our planet about the aliens that would be arriving the following year. And thank goodness he did. Johnson demanded to speak with the mayor of small-town Casper, refusing to talk to anybody else. His request was, unsurprisingly, denied on account of his condition. His eyes were bloodshot, his speech slurred, and he had an undeniable scent of alcohol. Of course, he had an explanation for all of that. To send him back in time, the aliens filled his body with some sort of alcohol and made him step on a large platform that teleported him to the year 2017. Turns out, aliens are just like us, except they have a time travel platform. However, Johnson was concerned that there had been some sort of glitch. He was supposed to teleport to 2018, not 2017. Johnson was soon arrested, and the mystery of whether or not aliens will indeed be visiting us in 2019 remains to be seen. But I, for one, am glad he got the word out there early. Number 3. The Baghdad Battery. If you were tasked with making something from a ceramic pot, a copper tube, and an iron rod, what would you do? Put the rod in the tube and the tube in the pot. Me too, but some researchers believe that these 3 artifacts discovered in Iraq and dating back between 150 BC and 650 AD were once used as some kind of electric current generator. In the 1930s, an employee at the National Museum of Iraq discovered that several artifacts were plated with ultra-thin layers of gold, leading him to believe they were electroplated. His theory was widely scoffed at by skeptics until it was found that the metal in all 3 artifacts was corroded, suggesting the presence of some form of acid. Scientists went on to conduct numerous experiments to test the likelihood of generating an electric current with these objects. A man named Willard Gray later successfully demonstrated that it was indeed possible using grape juice and vinegar. Still, these findings have been disputed. Some claim that the gold plating is simply a product of its time and nothing to do with electroplating. In 2012, a Stony Brook University professor publicly stated that she doesn't know a single archaeologist who believed the battery theory and instead advocated for the argument that the device was simply used as a way to store sacred scrolls. How disappointing. Number 2. Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone. In 1872, a group of workers in Meredith, New Hampshire, were busy digging a hole for a fence post when they discovered a very odd little egg-shaped stone. The stone was around 4 inches long, 2.5 inches thick, and contained a hole from top to bottom. But more curious were the carvings on the stone. An ear of corn, a moon shape, inverted arrows, and a face. Initial theories were focused on simple explanations. Likely, the stone represented or commemorated a peace treaty between tribes, but it didn't take long before that theory was dismissed. Why would there be holes in a stone like that? A 1994 analysis claimed that the whole thing was a hoax, suggesting that the hole in the stone was just far too clean and precise to be the work of an ancient civilization. This theory claims that the hole was created by 19th or 20th century power tools, which naturally led to hypotheses involving aliens that claimed the stone to be some kind of incredible future technology. Ultimately, scientists admitted that they have no clue on the stone's age, purpose, or origin. But then, who does? Number 1. Untersberg portals. You may best know the Untersberg from the opening scene of The Sound of Music, as Dame Julie Andrews joyfully sings that the hills are alive. Of course, she had no idea that they may well be. The Untersberg is a 6,473 feet tall mountain bordering Austria and Germany, a particularly popular spot for tourists looking for outdoor activities with a breathtaking view. But this gorgeous little spot hides a deadly secret. Hundreds of people have allegedly gone missing around the mountain. In 1987, 3 explorers entered the mountain's caves and disappeared, prompting a desperate search by police and mountaineers. But all they could find was the parked car that the explorers arrived in. 3 months later, devastated relatives received a call from the missing explorers, who were now on a ship in the Red Sea with seemingly no idea what had happened after they entered the caves. For the explorers, they had time jumped 3 months into the future with no explanation. However, when the explorers returned home to Munich, the story changed. The group claimed to have never gone into the caves at all, but instead took a train to Austria, forgot their passports and boarded the ship in a panic to avoid the police. While that story may or may not be a lie, there are others. In 1738, a hunter disappeared somewhere around the mountain, but attended his own memorial a year to the day after his disappearance. He confided in the Archbishop Furman of Salzburg, telling him the whole story. The Archbishop, deeply affected by what he had heard, resigned from his position soon after.